Welcome to the May Team Studio and TLCC webinar. Thank you for joining us today. I'd like to introduce my co-hosts, Paul Delanebbia and Howard Greenberg from TLCC, and today's speakers, Pete Janzen, Martin Donnelly, and Brian Gleeson from IBM, who will be presenting App.Next, the future of Domino application development. My name is Courtney. I'm the inbound marketing specialist at Team Studio and your co-host today. Before we start talking about today's topic, I'll be taking a few moments to tell you who we are and what we do at Team Studio. I'll then be passing the controls to Howard Greenberg at TLCC so he can give an intro, and then we'll dive into today's topic. To get us started, I'd like to cover a few administrative points. To protect your privacy, the attendee list is not public. All attendees are muted during this session, so you can participate by typing your questions to the speakers inside the questions section on your GoToWebinar window. We're doing Q&A at the end of this session, but you're welcome to ask your question at any point in the questions section, and we'll get to it once the formal presentation has concluded. This session is being recorded, and the link will be sent to you in a follow-up email in a few days. So a little bit about Team Studio. We may have assisted you in the past with application development. We've been delivering innovative developer tools and productivity tools to the Notes and Domino community since 1996, where we specialized in source code control, version management, and source code management. And we moved into the mobile application arena in 2010 with our mobile application platform, Unplugged. Unplugged gives you the ability to extend your IBM Notes apps out to mobile devices. It leverages the powerful technology of XPages and provides a native app experience for the user. And these apps have the capability to function when offline. Apps run very quickly, and development of apps is easier than ever. We're very proud to have been the recipient of 2 IBM Collaboration Solutions Awards for Unplugged in 2013 and 2014. In January 2014 at Connect, IBM awarded Unplugged with the Best of Show and CTO Award. And at IBM Partner World in February 2014, IBM recognized the platform as a finalist for a Beacon Award. This product is available on the major mobile platforms, BlackBerry, Android, iOS. In addition to Unplugged as a platform, we provide off-the-shelf template applications like Team Studio Continuity for mobile business continuity, OneView for mobile approvals requests, and Customer View for mobile CRM. We'd be happy to arrange a demo to show you how these tools work. Just contact us directly from our website or by phone. Late last year, we launched XControls on OpenNTF. This project allows you to quickly create XPages apps by dragging and dropping custom controls into your XPages. The apps you create will work on desktop browsers, mobile browsers, and Team Studio Unplugged. You can download the XControls template from OpenNTF along with a sampler app that shows you how to make use of the different controls to build an application. You can learn more at teamstudio.com/solutions/xfoundations. Here at Team Studio, we offer professional services that can provide you with the resources you need to meet project deadlines. Our services, such as the Unplugged Developer Assistance Program, app upgrade analysis, and app usage auditing, can help you work more efficiently with fewer errors. Learn more by visiting teamstudio.com/solutions/services. For promotions and announcements from Team Studio, if you subscribe to our blog by the end of this month, you'll automatically be entered to win an iPhone 6. We publish posts about twice a week about topics such as XPages, notes, industry events, and new product releases. We're also running a promotion on our Analyzer, Delta, and Configurator products. Be entered to win an iPhone 6 when you contact us for more info on these tools. Just click on the banners on the Team Studio homepage for these promos. And lastly, we'll be at DNUG this June in Dortmund, Germany, so come say hello if you'll be there. And now I'd like to pass the presentation over to Howard at TLCC so he can talk a little bit about TLCC, and then we'll kick things off with Pete. Over to you, Howard.
Oh, thank you, Courtney. And can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, well, good morning and good afternoon and good evening, everybody, and welcome to our monthly webinar. My name is Howard Greenberg, and along with my partner, Paul Delanebbia. Paul, say hello.
Good day, everyone, and thanks for joining us today.
We will be your host today for this webinar. So first, a little bit about TLCC. Many of you might be aware of us since we've been around since 1997. We have self-paced courses that are for Notes developers, admins, and users. And we've been focusing a lot on XPages for the last 4 or 5 years, since it first came out. One of our best-selling courses is our free demo course. We have a free Introduction to XPages course. So if you haven't made the plunge yet and you're wondering what XPages are all about, come to our website and sign up for the free demo course. And it's a great introduction. It'll take you about 2 to 3 hours to go through. We also, Paul and I, do mentoring. So if you want to go a little bit beyond what the courses offer and get some hands-on help as you apply your skills that you learned in the courses to your actual projects, Paul and I can help you and assist in that in your first steps working on your applications. We also can do private classes on site or virtually if you want an instructor-led class. And finally, Paul and I are also available for consulting and application development. We've been helping a number of our customers in their XPages development, either developing the applications completely or helping their in-house teams work on XPages applications and converting Notes applications over to XPages to modernize them. One of the things we're doing this month is our spring sale. So we have some pretty good savings. You can save quite a bit of money now through May 31st on our most popular courses, and that does include the XPages courses as well as the traditional Notes developer and administrator courses. So check that out. So today we have some presenters from IBM, and in June, our next webinar, June 16th, we're going to continue that. This will be a everything but app dev type webinar with Scott Bruscio talking about directions of Notes and Domino from kind of more a server perspective and the traditional Notes client. Dave Kern and Kevin Lynch are going to talk about Domino security, which if you are a developer and kind of had your head buried in the traditional development or standard development task and haven't kept up with some of the admin changes in Domino, there's some very important security things that have come out over the last few months. So definitely, attend that or get your admins to attend in June. And then finally, we're going to wrap up with Scott Souter doing a demo of IBM Verse. I'm sure all of you have heard about Verse, and Scott does a really great demo of that. So check that out, and then we're going to take the summer off. There will be no webinars in July and August. And in September, tentatively, we're going to start up again with Ulrich Kraus talking about MVC and XPages. So we'll kind of dive back into an XPages technical topic back in September, and as well as line up some other speakers. So you can sign up for the June webinar, and as I said, we traditionally do development topics in our webinars, but in June it's going to be kind of everything. So grab your admins and make sure they attend that session in June. Okay, so asking questions, you will see in the GoToWebinar interface, which you can see on the right, there's a questions pane. You can ask your questions there as we go through the webinar, and as Pete, Brian, and Martin talk. We will answer your questions at the end, and Paul and I will ask the presenters the questions that you ask. So you will not see your questions answered in the GoToWebinar interface. We will answer them verbally at the end of the webinar, but please ask your questions as we go along. And so let's get started. We have 3 great speakers today, Pete, Janzen, Martin Donnelly, and Brian Gleeson. And so Pete's going to kick it off talking about the future of Domino App Dev. So let me switch controls over to you, Pete.
Very good.
And we see your slides.
So you should now be seeing slides.
Yep, and we hear you fine.
Great. Okay. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Pete Janzen. I'm very happy to be here today on this webcast series to talk about the future of Domino application development, so App.Next. And what we're going to be covering today are a number of features and enhancements we're making both to our on-premises runtimes and development tools. Some of these things that we're going to be covering have already been made available through OpenNTF, but this is sharing with you the plans to bring those to the on-premises offering here, and then some of the enhancements that have gone on in these areas recently. We're also going to introduce to you some of the work that we're doing around building Domino applications on the cloud. So I think there's going to be a lot of great information. We've got a lot of content to cover, so why don't we get right into it? Standard disclaimer, as always, we are talking about some future things, so don't necessarily make your purchasing decisions based on content which we will deliver in the future. So just a brief introduction. Very happy to have with me today two colleagues from the XPages team out of the Dublin lab. Martin Donnelly is the software architect for XPages, so leading the initiatives over there. And Brian Gleeson is one of our key developers on the XPages team. I'm sure many of you have had the opportunity to hear from both of these people in the past, either through other webinars or Brian's been doing some videos that have been really beneficial. So it's great to have those both of them with us today here. So the agenda is we're going to talk. I'm going to give you some brief overview of the directions that we're heading here. Then we're going to dive into really the things that we're working on here. So responsive XPages, relational data source, document encryption and signatures, talk a little bit about our open source initiatives, and then spend a good chunk of time on Domino on Bluemix. So here are the various areas that we're focused on for 2015 and beyond. As you're well aware, with IBM Burst, with Smart Cloud Notes, there's been a big initiative to deliver a lot of our messaging and collaboration capabilities to the cloud. And we have IBM Connections Cloud for social collaboration. We have Smart Cloud Notes, now IBM Burst for mail. We've been moving in a way that allows you to build applications on top of cloud-based infrastructures, but this, is really going to accelerate that set of capabilities for leveraging the cloud, and that will be really what we'll end on in today's session. Responsive web design, Brian's going to cover this in detail. He's been leading this initiative here. He's got some great content with you to share. I think there's a lot of benefits that people are getting from leveraging responsive web design within the context of XPages and web development in general. So a good initiative for us to have embarked on, and I think the community has certainly been embracing that. Relational data source is always the ability to integrate relational data into your applications is very important, so we'll give you some updates on that. And then encryption support in XPages, something that's been a very strong value proposition of Notes client applications, but to date has not been available on the web. We're doing a number of things here that will allow us to go ahead and leverage this from the context of XPages. As always, scattered throughout all of these things that we're delivering from a runtime perspective, we're always looking to enhance, obviously, Domino Designer, the tool you're using to build these applications, by adding specific new features that allow you to take advantage of the enhancements we're making here from an XPage perspective, or maybe a deployment to cloud perspective. So you'll be hearing about a number of these throughout the talk today. Improving application build management, something that we've been working on. We're going to continue to push that forward, but I think XPages and the fact that you're not building applications, anything that we can do to make that easier for you developers is certainly going to be an effort that you will appreciate and time well spent on our behalf. REST API enhancements, we're continuing to move forward on REST, and I think there will be some things that will be coming, particularly in the cloud perspective, which is not really from a verse and IBM Connections Cloud perspective. That will be interesting. We're not going to really touch on that today, but wanted to just make you aware of that. NSF, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, and then as always, looking to increase our integration with connections wherever possible. So let's get right into NSF. It's the tried and true database. It's the thing that continues to deliver you tons of value here in your Domino applications. There's two things that I want to focus on. First is live view refresh. Here, this is really addressing the performance issue that one can encounter when view indexes are being refreshed at the same time you're actually trying to read or write to a view. There's been a bottleneck that has been existing there. And so really it's because it's been single-threaded. What we've now done here is provided a dedicated background thread for maintaining these critical view indices, so that this really does remove that contention and dramatically improves performance. It's currently available actually in 901 FixPack 3. In the next webinar that Howard mentioned before, Scott Vruchel will be giving you more details about that. But one of the things is right now to enable that, you're doing some various settings. What we want to do is expose some new capabilities within the admin client that make it easier for you to configure and control how this new capability will work. The other thing is view indices. As you're aware, view indices take up a lot of space within the NSF. We have a 64 gigabyte limit on the NSF, and if views are consuming maybe 20 to 40% of that NSF storage, that means that the amount of room for document data associated with your application has been reduced. If we can move that index outside of the NSF, then all of a sudden you now have much more headroom for data within your applications before you hit that limit. So this is something that we've been working on for a while. Things are looking very good here. And the other benefit is, besides just getting that extra headroom, is the fact that we can reduce backup costs, because no longer do you have to back up that index. Very often when you're restoring from backup, you're going to rebuild the index anyway, so why back it up? So it also helps save costs regarding backups. At this point, I'd like to transition over to Brian, who's going to go ahead and take you through the enhancements we're working on for responsive development. So Brian?
Thanks, Pete. And let me just start sharing my screen here. So I have a few slides on the topic of responsive XPages, and then I'll do a little bit of a quick demo before transitioning back to Pete. So what is responsive design? Responsive applications or websites are all about making those applications react and rearrange themselves automatically based on the device that the user is accessing that application from. So across a large desktop machine to a tablet to a mobile device, the website will, or the application will automatically rearrange all of the elements of the page to optimize them for usage on the particular screen size that the user is accessing from. So to do this in XPages, we pulled in Bootstrap 3.2.0, which is an open source project that's been running for a couple of years now and it's grown exponentially in popularity across the web. So this all started out with the Bootstrap for XPages project on OpenNTF, which was started by Philippe Briand and Mark Lusink. They incorporated various versions of Bootstrap. They built in jQuery, flip icons, and themes and renderers, and a lot of good stuff into that project. And that was running for about a year and a half. I think it started in 2013, and it got a lot of popularity within the XPages community. A lot of people were using and installing it and making responsive XPages applications using Bootstrap. So due to the growing popularity within the community and across the web in general, the XPages team decided to pull this project into the XPages extension library and release it as part of the core extension library. So we developed a new Bootstrap plugin, and we focused on one particular release of Bootstrap, which at the time was the most recent, version 3.2.0. We included jQuery glyph icons. We're providing 2 different themes. We've added a whole bunch of extra renderers on top of the original project, lots more fixes and styling and testing and all of that built in. So a much more robust and release than the original project, we feel. So I'm going to show you some of the features of that Bootstrap plugin in a moment, but just to go through what it provides. As I said, it provides 2 new themes, the Bootstrap 3.2.0 and the flat version of that theme. The flat version, as the name suggests, is flat, whereas the other theme has more of a 3-dimensional gradient effect on buttons and some other various styling nuances. And you can select those after you've installed the extension library to Domino Designer. You can select those from the theme drop-down in your XSP properties. And this slide also mentions the fact that we have added functionality to Designer to allow developers to add their own themes into this drop-down by using the Style Kit Factory mechanism that you can see on screen here. So you can contribute your own themes to the drop-down in your own plugin. As part of this Bootstrap responsive effort, we're providing 2 different configurations for the application layout control. The first one, the responsive Bootstrap configuration, was added in, or I should say, the first release of this new functionality was in November on the extension library, and that included the first of these configurations, which was a responsive version of the application layout control that we all know from the extension library. Then later on, in the 12th release of the extension library just a few months ago, we added the simple responsive configuration, which was a kind of a pared down, a trimmed down version of the application layout control with a pure focus on the responsive features and properties. So they're both available to use in the extension library now. As well as that, in the 12th release of the extension library, we added 3 new responsive controls, namely the carousel, the navbar, and the dashboard. I'm going to demo some of their features in a moment, so let's carry on. And then the other major addition that came as part of this was jQuery. So jQuery is a JavaScript plugin, a JavaScript library that provides a lot of additional functionality. It's all client-side JavaScript and allows a lot of cool functionality that you can add to your application. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of third-party plugins all available online, which you can download, add to your application, and then leverage very quickly in your XPages code to add even more capabilities. But we still rely on Dojo as our core JavaScript library. And you can use jQuery in a number of different ways. You can use it by using those Bootstrap themes that I mentioned a moment ago. You can create a new theme and add jQuery as a resource, or you can just add it to an individual XPage and then start calling it from your CSJS in your application. So I may as well jump to a demo of some of these features. First up here we have this is an old version of a to-do application that's using the One UI version 3.02 theme. And all I've done is I've changed the theme of that application, and you can see now that application has been completely reskinned with a Bootstrap look and feel. So that's one of the benefits of Bootstrap, is that you get a modern Flash Bootstrap look and feel, akin to the look and feel of Twitter, which is where the Bootstrap project originally started from. And then to further enhance it, we took that as a base and we created this new version of the to-do application. This application is a sample application that we're providing as part of the extension library now. It went out in release 12, I believe, and we're also going to be providing it as part of our Bluemix offering in the cloud. So to show you some of the responsive capabilities, if I resize the window, it simulate what you would experience on a mobile device. So this is akin to the size of a mobile screen. You can see that the dashboard control at the top, which lists the to-do, completed, urgent, and overdue tasks, has been rearranged into a 2x2 format, as opposed to the the four icons all in a row on a larger screen. So that happens automatically using JavaScript and CSS built into Bootstrap, and the developer doesn't have to worry too much about how it's all handled. As well as that, there were a number of links that were in the banner bar of the application. They've been automatically collapsed down to save some screen real estate. So most of the actions are all about saving the real estate and making sure that the user doesn't have to scroll horizontally too much or scroll vertically too much, so they can see all of the content, but without minimizing the functionality that you would have in the full size application. So we still have the various links here that take us to the different pages of the application. And if I go back to the home page, everything gets vertically stacked. So if I squeeze things a bit further, you can see the buttons at the bottom automatically stack vertically to save space, to make sure that they don't run off the side of the screen. And then the final feature that we had in this application is that the menu that was on the left-hand side, so we have this navigator menu for all of the different pages on the left-hand side. On a smaller screen, we've decided that we don't want to show that, so we hide that menu automatically on a smaller screen to save some more real estate. So those are just some of those responsive features built into this XPages application that is now available as part of the extension library. So on the next page, this page demonstrates the new Navbar control. So previously in the application layout, you were able to incorporate a navbar as part of that sort of overall layout control, but this control is a dedicated control, so you can create navbars individually without using an application layout. So the default navbar has a gray look and feel and takes up the central width of the page. One of the main features is that you can fix the navbar to the top and bottom of the page. So this is navbar fixed to the top of the page. I've inverted the style, which is one of the settings of the navbar control, to a more charcoal look and feel. And if I scroll down the page, you can see that the banner remains in place in view. Similarly, you can change it to a fixed bottom navbar, and scrolling there again means that it stays in place. And you can add extra XPages controls to the content of the navbar, such as the example here where we've added a search box to the navbar. So a very customizable control to provide quick and easy navigation and possibly other functionality to your XPages applications. The other property you can use is static top, which puts the navbar at the top of the page, but it will scroll out of view. And then the one final demo of the navbar control is if you wanted to have multiple navbars on the control on your page, that is now possible using this dedicated navbar control. I've got a fixed top and a fixed bottom navbar, and then in the middle of the page I've got a third one floating in the middle of the content. So, very, very customizable, and it's up to the app developer to really decide which or what is the best approach to using this navbar control. The next control is the carousel. So the carousel is a responsive slideshow control. You can set various properties about it. What you would do is you would add a number of slides to the carousel. So you will set a background. The background can be an image or it can be just a solid color. The carousel will automatically expand the image to kind of take up the full width of the carousel control itself, and the carousel is designed to take up the full width of the application itself as well. And then you can set a large sort of heading, a smaller caption, a description, and you can also add a link at the bottom to take users to somewhere else to learn more about the topic on display in this particular slide. And each of those elements is completely customizable or optional. You can have one or all of the above. You can use the controls on the left and right of the carousel to slide between the various slides in your carousel. And then at the bottom of the carousel, there's also these indicator circles indicating which slide you're currently using, and you can use those as links to jump back and forth between the slides. On top of that, if I were to jump into Designer for a moment, you can change this auto cycle setting to true, and with that setting set to true, the carousel will automatically slide through the slides within your carousel. And I also changed the wrapped property to false so that when it reaches the last slide in the list, it will stop cycling and just hold place there. So yeah, I think that pretty much shows you all of the capabilities that are currently available as part of the responsive Bootstrap plugin in the extension library. And it's something that we're going to hope to continue to work on and expand on going into the future for the next release of Domino and XPages. So if I hand back to you there, Pete.
Yes, thanks, Brian. So I think, yeah, that definitely showcased a lot of great capabilities that were recently added here. Actually, if you could, well, sure, I'll take the controls.
Pete, do you want me to pass it back to Brian?
No, that's all right. You'll just give it after me. So you should be seeing my screen now, Futures, Relational Data Source for XPages.
Yes.
Excellent. So as everyone's aware, there's been a long history of integrating relational data into Notes and Domino applications. There have been a number of approaches. Historically, in the beginning, it was ODBC. Then we had Lotus connectors along with LEI to allow you to do that. But with XPages and the fact that it's Java-based, now we can really go ahead and tap into some of the other utilities that are available, primarily JDBC, for integrating relational data into your Domino applications built with XPages. The beauty, or what we're trying to achieve here with this, is with XPages we have that easy metaphor of easily binding a data source to your UI controls within XPages, and that works very well, certainly for data residing within the NSF. But we want to make that easy to be able to be accomplished from when you're using relational data here, because maybe you want to go ahead and create some dashboards that are bringing data from relational data stores in conjunction with the data stored within the NSF. And so this is really what this set of capabilities is focusing in on. We made this available out on OpenNTF. It's been probably 18 months now, if not a little bit more than that. And over that time, a lot of people have been using this and getting some great value out of that. One of the things that, as the community has adopted this, we've gotten feedback on, are two areas that we have addressed in more recent builds that have been delivered out to OpenNTF. First is connection pooling. When you're integrating with relational systems, one of the most expensive operations is the ability to authenticate with that relational database system here. So that's an expensive operation, which means from an end user perspective, you are waiting for those credentials to be authenticated so that you can have access to return that result set, let's say. With connection pooling, what you're doing is you're establishing connections, and then you're allowing them to reside in a pool, so that, let's say we have three users, user A, B, and C, who want to go ahead and leverage this application that's bringing information from a relational data store. Users A and B are currently using it, and maybe we have two connections in the pool. When user B is finished, that connection is made available in the pool, and then when user C comes to access that application, they get very immediate access to that relational system, so they don't have to wait for that integration to be established between the Domino server and a relational database system. The other thing is, with this feature, you're using JDBC drivers to integrate with the relational system. And so you need to go ahead and make that JDBC driver available to the Domino applications in the XPages runtime. Prior to this, it was kind of a manual process, but we've gone ahead and built this plugin wizard that basically wraps the JDBC driver as a Domino OSGI plugin. And it produces an update site which can then be deployed to the server. This is the recommended approach for going ahead and integrating or leveraging the JDBC driver from the XPages runtime here. So it's a nice new feature. It does the heavy lifting for you, and it makes you, allows you to be, from a developer perspective, up and running much more quickly than you would have been in the past. So 2 great new features there for what's available on currently on the version releases on OpenNTF. But once again, this is one of the things that's going to be coming into the next release of the product, and we'll talk a little bit about roadmap here at the end. I've seen some questions that will allow us to talk a bit about timing and things like that towards the end of today's session during the question and answer period. So at this point, I would like to transition it over to Martin. So Howard, if you could give Martin control, that would be great.
Thank you, Pete. Just wondering if you guys can see my screen. Show my screen. Okay, so my part here today will be firstly to talk about document encryption and signature support, which has been a feature of the Notes client for the longest time. As people migrate applications from the Notes client to XPages in certain situations, this is a feature that they have found wanting or hasn't been available on the web. It's something that we've been made aware of by many clients over time, and something that we're actively working on now. And I think I'd like to start by kind of demonstrating this rather than going to my slides. So I'm going to switch to the Notes client. I'm logged in here as Martin Donnelly. I can go to my security tab, and what's interesting there is in Notes client, if I expand Notes data and look at my documents, you'll see that I have a bunch of secret keys, ones that I have created and shared with other users, and ones that they have shared with me. So I have a bunch of 5 keys here that are stored in my ID and that can be used to encrypt sensitive data in documents. Similarly, okay, this is a Notes feature, has been for a long time. If I were to switch users, for example, and switch over to Samantha Darren, in Samantha's ID, if we take the same route through security, you can see that Samantha also has a bunch of shared keys. I have shared my key, Martin's key, with Samantha, and she has shared Sam's key with me also. So we have those keys in common. I've shared some other keys with some other users. So I guess these are the sort of unit of currency when it comes to encryption. There are other means as well, obviously, of using public keys and named users to share information. But the one I want to focus on today is the use of secret keys, which, as we say, has been done in the client for a long time. So how will this work now on the web? So let's give an example of that in XPages. So here, if I move to the sample app, you can see I've got a web application here called it's called Secret NSS, but it's really just an extended discussion XPages application. And I'm logged into this particular Mozilla browser as Martin Donnelly. So I can put in some information, some very, very highly sensitive information of corporate accounts that would need close guarding for the beer budget, for example. So better encrypt this. And how we would encrypt this, of course, is to use the ticker key here. Now, what's interesting is that I have decided to encrypt the document, and as you can see, all of the keys that you saw a moment ago that are stored in my Notes ID are stored. I suddenly have access to them here on the web as well, exactly the same set of keys. So I can choose to share or to encrypt this particular field, which is marked in red, the corporate account, with Frank and Blog's keys that I have shared with those 2 users in the past. Okay. So again, this is a way that I just simply highlighted temporarily this field as being an encrypted field. You have CSS and various theming to control that. But this red marked field here is encrypted. If I save the document, I have saved the document as Martin Donnelly, sharing with some specific, or encrypting for specific users with whom I've shared that key. Not to be outdone, Samantha, of course, is logged in here in another browser instance. You can see here that her name, and she has the account code for something else, code for marketing 2015. And I can bang in some codes here, similar idea, and mark that as top secret. Now, as Samantha, you can see, again, when I click this particular key picker, it reads all the keys from her ID, and I can decide to, yes, that I only want Martin and myself really as Samantha to see this. So I can save that document. Now we've got 2 documents that have been saved on the web. Samantha can open them, and she can see her own data here. She can see that there's account code for the beer budget. But when she opens that document, if you notice that encrypted key, because I didn't use Samantha's key to encrypt the field, then she doesn't possess that key and therefore cannot read that back. So you can see that the encryption here is functioning on the web, and it's using the precise model that we've used in the Notes client for the longest time, as I say. So if I go back to the Notes client, in fact, here, and as Samantha, if I open that database, which is on my server, called secret.nss, you can see here that those documents have been created in the client. If I open the first document, and if I look in the status bar, you can see that the document is in fact encrypted. And I hope you can see the bottom line, because you can see that Notes is in fact decrypting the document, and it shows me the secret account codes here. If I look, for those of you familiar with this, you'll know that certain when you have an encrypted field in your form, then certain items get created automatically, like the encryption status and so forth. So you can see that if you had done this action in the Notes client, you have the exact same result. So it's decrypted the document in this case because Samantha has the key, and for the beer budget, you can see that again I get the same result, right? And in fact, in Notes here again, if I look, you cannot access part of this document because it was encrypted, and you don't have any of those keys. So basically, there's a round tripping there. If I were to move back to the client or move to Designer, in fact, we might look at the design of this page, which is called Secret Docs. And really, there's just 2 things to look at. First of all, we can look here very quickly at the code behind the picker. And I think that the important thing to look at is that we have, and I'll talk about this in the slides momentarily, but that key picker really populates itself with the user's secret keys. And so there's a bunch of ways of accessing these keys, but we've made it very simple. So the ID are stored. So a prereq for all of this is that you must have the ID Vault installed on the server. The ID Vault will maintain your ID. As a user, as a logged in user, you can effectively, in XPages, that ID can be extracted safely and securely from the ID Vault, and the keys are read from it, expose that to the user, as we've seen at runtime, allowing you to encrypt the document or to specify that the document should be encrypted with those particular keys. Now, there's a bunch of APIs for that. Again, in XPages, as has been our habit over the years, we have made it simpler by providing add functions to do so. This is the simplest add function, which takes the current user's password, etc., as default, and pulls back that information. That works in this particular case. If you wanted to get more sophisticated and specify a different server, different user, different passwords, etc., all of those different signatures, if you like, for the APIs are there. The second part to it is, how does the document get saved? It can get saved automatically by reading the parameters, or you can use the APIs again, as I'm going to show here just for a moment. So the key part is as follows. Okay, if I just highlight that piece of code here, you can see that I used the key picker to select certain keys. This particular piece of server-side JavaScript, when it's saving, it's doing a custom save, so it reads the keys that's stored in that component, and if they exist, if it's not empty, in other words, if there are keys, then it uses these new APIs to set the encryption keys on the document and encrypts it with the user's ID. And that really is the sort of logic behind what happens and how it's actually implemented. So it's a very powerful and simple system. It's not it emulates Notes, and it uses standard APIs. If I go to my slides, we can talk about using public keys or using secret keys. I've demonstrated secret keys here. You can see ways of actually kind of doing this can be as simple as functions at user ID to extract the user's ID from the vault, and secret keys to extract the keys from the user's ID. These are based on a more sophisticated set of functions that are there available for you with Java APIs, such as ID Vault, session.getID Vault, and set user ID for decryption, and there's a whole set of these things here, which I guess those of you who are Java fans can knock yourself out with. But it's so there's a suite of APIs, but again, in XPages we've made simple app functions available, and we've also made new controls like the control picker to give you a visual means of picking those keys automatically from your ID. So that's really the story there. In terms of futures, I think I'll just continue here while I have the floor. So as usual, we start the futures by looking back a little bit. So I think in November or December, we gave another talk about initiatives in the open source space, and I'm here really just to give an update on that. So the XPages extension library has been out there as the most popular download on OpenMTF for quite some time, over 65,000 downloads to date, and that's taking into account that those downloads would have, I guess, slowed down after the bulk of the technology was incorporated into the core product, right? But I mean, it's still experiencing very, very high downloads. Traditionally, up until last December, all of the source code was included and still is in the zip file, but it wasn't easy to participate as a developer in that whole process if you wished to, for example, take that code and use it, enhance it, debug it, etc. So what we did was a number of things. We first of all set up a GitHub repository, pushed all of the existing extension library code to there so that you, as a developer, could take a clone of that directory, fork the code, build it, and contribute back. That was the basic idea, that you could have full source code access to this, and making that easy for people. So you can go to GitHub today. In fact, will I just do that at this point? So you can see here that there's the github.com, OpenMTF, extension library, and what I'm looking at here are some of the pull requests. So this is an example right now, in fact, of the community getting involved in this process as recently as 7 days ago, where Sudar is working on a particular contribution. He has his own what should I say? His own clone of the repository, and he has forked one and is working on that. And I think it looks like Paul Withers is doing something similar over the past number of months, without really any active enablement from us as a development team. You can see that various members of the community have been in there, have made changes. Now, the key thing about making changes is when they're happy with those changes is the process for getting them back into the product. So this is really kind of to enhance, to maintain innovation, to embrace, to be more collaborative with the community themselves. If you as a developer have a vested interest in a particular feature, and you want to expedite its incorporation into the runtime, then you can take the initiative, you can fork the code, you can do an implementation, you can issue a pull request to the XPages team, and before the next XPages OpenMTF extension library release would come out, then the open pull request, which I just shown you a moment ago, would be reviewed by the team. They would have to, go through certain integration process, and then would appear in the next OpenMTF release. So you can see that we've had success with this thus far, as I say, success without really even promoting it a whole lot. And we would hope that later in the year we'd be able to give more enablement in this particular area. So if I go back to my slides for a second. As I say, it's no longer only a zip file, it's a full GitHub repository. And very importantly, a lot of the tools that you would require to build projects using it are now also available as artifacts. So there's things called P2 update sites, which essentially allow you to create compiled targets without really having the Domino server or Node client installed are there. So not just the code, but the infrastructure necessary, all of the bits and pieces that you would need to go and build projects and so forth. So the effort has been to simplify the process and to get more engagement, and that's actively going on. This is a diagram that depicts how the whole process works. Remember, the open source repository is out there, but it's read-only. You create a fork, you work on the fork, and you decide, hey, as a good community member, I'm happy with my changes, and I'd like to suggest that they get pushed back to the open source core, if you like. This results in a pull requests which are periodically reviewed. They go through a kind of a blue wash process where we apply the normal standards to the XPages code that maybe all community members wouldn't initially be aware of. And once it gets back into the central ClearCase repository internally, then the next time we publish an extension library release, then your code has gotten in there in that sort of a circular fashion. So as you can see, there's the hub, the forks, the integration process, back into the internal stream, back to the hub. So it works very much in that life cycle, in that development life cycle. It's some early adopters have gone in there and successfully incorporated their changes so far. We'll do more enablement on this later in the year, and I'd really encourage any of you who are unaware of this now to visit that site and get involved. So this is more on the process of what we do, passing unit tests and making sure that code is ready for translation and so forth. But there are details I think that you can sort of worry about at the right time when the pull request is issued. So I'm finished on this section, and I would gladly give control back to whomever wants to kick off. Is it Brian?
Yeah, actually, can you just drive the slides since there's a few?
Sure.
And okay, so what we want to spend the rest of the time on today is our Domino on Bluemix initiative here. And so what this is, as I alluded to at the beginning of the call, this is really going to allow the Domino application programming model, the infrastructure that supports Domino, to be accessible to developers and customers who are using these applications from a IBM cloud-based infrastructure in a way that really hasn't been possible prior to today. So first off, just a quick overview of Bluemix for those of you who have not heard about it. IBM's certainly doing a lot of marketing around Bluemix as its entrance into the platform as a service area. So Bluemix, really what it does is it brings together a cloud-based infrastructure that runs on top of SoftLayer, which is our infrastructure as a service, and gives you this platform for building applications that bring together a rich library of both runtimes as well as services that those runtimes can go ahead and leverage. It's built on open standards. It leverages Cloud Foundry for its basically its framework there for delivering this platform as a service. So we think about things like today from Domino. The beauty of Domino is you get everything that you need to run your application when you deploy that server. With Bluemix, or I should say for Domino, we have the XPages runtime, we have the database, we have security, we have directories, etc. With Bluemix, it's a slightly different concept, and really it's allowed, other software development stacks which haven't been closely integrated like Domino has to become more of a rapid application development value proposition, let's say. So we have different kinds of runtimes out there. What we're working on is bringing forward the XPages runtime to Bluemix, as well as a database service, which basically is the NSF, the NoSQL data store. But Bluemix, the operative word there is mix, is that from your runtime that you're using to build your application, you can mix in a lot of different services. So you can have multiple data services easily integrated in, different kinds of mobile services, maybe for push notifications and things like that, analytics, etc. This is something you can certainly do in on-premises offerings, but it takes a lot of lifting to integrate these infrastructures to enable your application to take advantage of them. The beauty of Bluemix is that all that happens seamlessly in the background for you. So if you could go to the next slide, please. What it really allows you as a developer or a customer to realize is the power of this Domino programming model on IBM Bluemix. So creating that next generation of line of business applications. So whether you want to go ahead and build new kinds of applications that bring together various kinds of services, maybe they're analytics, maybe they're cognitive services from Watson, maybe they're mobile services, maybe they are new kinds of social collaboration features. you'll be able to do that easily within the context of the application you're building here that is either using the XPages runtime as well as the Domino data store, or maybe just one or the other of those two. From an application modernization perspective, it's an easier path because it goes and easily instantiates that runtime for the application up there in the cloud and allows you to go through a lot of quick iterations through your modernization process. We all know that there's millions and millions and millions of applications out there residing on premises today. One of the beauties of Bluemix is the ability for that application data to continue to reside on premises, and this is what we refer to as a hybrid architecture. Bluemix is making a lot of commentary about the value proposition and its support for hybrid application architectures out there. Domino will certainly fall into that spectrum because of the desire for people to maybe have existing to retain Domino servers on premises, yet expose that data through a cloud-based application. From a partner perspective, it gives you new routes to market here because there are things like the IBM Cloud Marketplace, which allow you to expand the audience which would be viewing your application services. It allows you to embrace more of that IBM portfolio because it's much easier to add in other kinds of IBM services or maybe third-party services that are made available to Bluemix. And it allows you to focus on selling the value of your application and not necessarily having to sell the customer on deploying a Domino infrastructure on premises. So really focus in on selling that value of the application. If we go to the next slide, we'll see that some of the benefits for developers are the fact that it allows the developer to really focus on developing. So as you'll see in a minute in this demonstration, it's a click-and-play environment that allows you to build, manage, and run your Domino applications. Fortunately, Domino's been one of those platforms that has been approachable from an administrative perspective for somebody who's not a full-time administrator. We've always had those sessions for Domino administration for Domino developers, but now it's even easier here. So you can focus on developing. It allows you to bring your existing XPages and Domino skills directly to the cloud. Allows you to tap into that NoSQL database, the NSF, to provide that secure data for cloud-based applications. We're going to talk about a concept called a boilerplate here. Basically, what that is a starter kit that allows you to quickly go ahead and get the application up and running. But also, because there are other kinds of runtimes out there on Bluemix, like Node.js or Liberty for Java, you can go ahead and build applications using those runtimes that work against the Domino database, the NSF. It also has a lot of DevOps functionality built certainly into it. And thus, the developer can certainly deploy and run that entire application themselves. So once again, we have this dashboard for monitoring your applications based on the analytics and the monitoring capabilities. Then you can go ahead and adjust and scale that application to meet various workload needs. It allows you to deliver highly available, resilient applications because if something has to fail over from one instance of the application to another, all that is handled seamlessly for you in the background. And then the ability to go ahead and automate builds with code, maybe using RTC or Git. The ability to go ahead and really have have an infrastructure that ties in with the lifecycle management of your application really will allow developers to build robust applications and take advantage of lifecycle application best practices. So if we go on to the next slide, what we're going to share with you is a bit of a cheat sheet. So Martin, maybe you could speak to this slide and then going forward.
Sure. So Brian will give you the initial Bluemix demo in a moment, right? And I guess the key point here is that if you're new to Bluemix, that you don't have to understand too much up front. That I think once the demo starts, if you follow it along, it's pretty straightforward. The three key points to grasp, I guess, in advance is that there's kind of two real entities that you see that you'll see in Bluemix. Bluemix is like this app store for developers. You get up there, you got a dashboard. The dashboard is really comprised of either runtimes or services. The runtimes are the technologies that you would build your application with. So you would build your application using Node or Liberty or Ruby, or hopefully for you guys listening, in XPages, which is an example of a runtime. And for an XPages runtime, of course, what services would you bind it to? And I guess the primary use case for us would be Domino, right? So again, just as you might have a Node.js app that uses an SQL service as the backend, it would be very intuitive for you guys to have an XPages runtime that uses a data NSF as the Domino service. So it's really kind of the runtime is a container based on the technology that runs and communicates via APIs to a service which can provide APIs or a data repository or whatever, but they are very separate. There's a smaller set of runtimes up on Bluemix and a large set of services. Let's put it that way. Now, when you want to get started with, it's a big platform up there, and if you wanted to get started and experiment with as Pete said, the mix of technologies, an easy way to kind of get people up and running is the use of boilerplates. So boilerplates in the Bluemix world is very much like the notion of a node template, something that kind of just is ready to run out of the box. So again, in our case, in the XPages boilerplate case, you get an XPages runtime that actually binds to that. Well, when you set it up, if you don't have the Domino account on our service, that resource will be created for you. You'll get a database provided for you, which is actually an instance of the application, the to-do application that Brian showed you a little bit earlier on. But in any case, just conceptually, the boilerplate is very much around something that is predefined, that will work end to end, that will enable you to run an application kind of out of the box that you could then also take and explore and maybe learn from. So with those three things in mind, I think we can go ahead and do the demos. Just to be aware, though, and we can talk a little bit more about this architecture in a moment, but the services, if you look at Bluemix as being a combination of two things, a sort of a back-end data repositories and services that are running software, and a bunch of applications running in the upper layer in Cloud Foundry. And these applications are design-only applications that run inside in sort of protected lightweight VM containers. And the beauty of that, of course, is that those containers can be started up very quickly and discarded by Bluemix, giving you kind of a lot of uptime and resilience and flexibility. So it's very important, of course, that those applications that we will be showing you don't in themselves contain application data. They communicate with a data service or with services across via APIs and so forth, and that's held separately. So that according as application containers are stood up and discarded and managed basically optimally by the Bluemix platform, that there's no data loss involved. So we see actually not in a more advanced use case later on a good example of this. I think at probably this stage you've probably had enough information on that, and it would be a good time, I think, to hand over to Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Martin.
All right.
So I'm going to go through a demo here of some of the offerings that we're planning to provide in Bluemix for XPages. Courtney, could you transfer? There we go. Okay, so my screen should start to come through now. I'm logged into Bluemix here using my Brian Gleeson account. Before I start, I'm going to point out that I'm actually using Martin's organization. So I've got a number of organizations here that I'm a member of, sharing around our XPages team, and Martin has added me to his organization. So what that means is that we can collaborate together on applications and projects within Bluemix. So if I go over to the catalog first, this is the Bluemix catalog, and I should say as well that we're on stage 1, which is testing and staging Bluemix server that is internal only to IBM, and so some of these services and runtimes won't be visible on the public Bluemix. But you can see in the catalog we've got a set of boilerplates available using various elements such as the Liberty Java server combined with the cache service or Cloudin service, and various other mobile and Node.js boilerplates available there. Then we've got our set of runtimes, including Liberty for Java, Node, Go, PHP, and so on and so forth. And then below that, we've got a large selection of services from your Watson and mobile services, DevOps, and there's a whole plethora of different services available there which you can build into your application. So at the bottom of the page here, we have a link to the Labs section. This is an area of the catalog that holds the experimental services and runtimes, of which the XPages service and runtime are one of those. So you can see here that we've got a boilerplate, we've also got the runtime here marked as experimental, and that comes with a warning to tell you that it is experimental and may change. So this is the creation dialog, which gives you information about that runtime and allows you to create a new instance of the XPages runtime to hold and run an XPages application. Further down below, we have the IBM XPages NoSQL database service, and this is the service that we are providing, or we will be providing in Bluemix to provide that data backend, that data NSF that your front-end applications can connect to hold and store your data. But what I really want to do here is use the boilerplate as a demo to show you some of the capabilities of these offerings that we're providing to Bluemix. So you can see here that this is the XPages NoSQL DB starter. Starter and boilerplate are kind of interchangeable terms, and it provides you a set of the runtime and the service to give you a quick start application that will be up and running in Bluemix in a couple of minutes. So you see here it's using XPages runtime and the XPages NoSQL database service. So if I enter a new name for this application, TLCC to do, and hit the create button. So what's that going to do? First of all, it's going to create a new instance of the runtime, a web container holding the resources and libraries and plugins necessary to run an XPages application in the cloud. On top of that, it's also going to create a new instance of the data NSF on the backend data service. So it's going to take a couple of minutes, well, maybe 2 minutes or so to actually stage and start up the new application. But the service will be up and running already very quickly. So this is the launch page that appears within Bluemix, the Bluemix UI, giving you information about that backend database service. And if I click the launch button, it will take me to this application, which is running. It's running on a Domino server that we have stood up in SoftLayer. So the XPages team is hosting and managing this Domino server in SoftLayer, and it runs and holds the NoSQL database service. So it provides you a number of details and information about the elements that it has created for you as part of this service. First and foremost, it creates a new ID for you on the service, and you can see here that it's actually using the organization name from Bluemix. And sort of normalizing that to create a new username and ID. You can download the ID, which I've already done just before the demo. It gives you a password, information about the location and server name that you're going to connect to, and then below that it will tell you about the different databases that have been created under this organization. So we've already been doing a bit of testing today, so we have 3 different databases available to us. The third one is going to be the one that was most recently created. So that's going to be the one that was provisioned by the request I just sent from Bluemix to create a new boilerplate application. So you can see there that it provides you the details in order to be able to access this database from Domino Designer, and then you can connect your data backend and manipulate the forms and views that you would be familiar with from developing XPages applications. So if I was to go back to the dashboard again, the other tab here that's interesting is the Start Coding tab. This provides you with a zip file. You can download the starter code and provides you a zip file with all of the resources that you need in order to be able to change and edit the front end of your application. So you can see some of those resources here, namely the most important of which is the ToDo_design.nsf. So if I switch over to Domino Designer, as I said, I'm already logged in, or sorry, I already downloaded the Martin Donnelly ID. I've logged into Domino Designer using that ID and the password provided from the service. I can show you some of the capabilities that we're adding to Domino Designer to build in and incorporate Bluemix functionality into the development environment that XPages developers will be familiar with. So in the preferences, there's a new IBM Bluemix page, and here I can specify which Bluemix server that I want to connect to. In my case, I actually want to connect to stage 1 in Dallas, which is the NG that I just changed there. I provided my email address and my password, and then I can test the connection to that server, the Bluemix server, to make sure that Domino Designer can communicate with that Domino server, or that Bluemix server, apologies. So then there's a couple of other settings you can change there, but I won't cover those in this demo. As well as that, we have a tool to import the Bluemix starter code that I just downloaded from the Bluemix website. So if I navigate to my downloads folder, this is the zip file that I just downloaded, so I can open that up and import that into my workspace. I need to specify a deployment directory. So this is just going to be a directory that's going to hold the resources for me before I want to push those resources back up to Bluemix. So in Designer, I'll make changes, and those changes will be copied to the deployment directory. The deployment directory will be zipped up, sent to Bluemix, and the application will be restarted. So let's just choose that folder for now, and we'll hit Next. So this wizard is now going to connect up to Bluemix using the credentials I set in the preferences pane, and it's going to pull down the set of organizations that I have access to in Bluemix. So as I said, I was using the Martin Donnelly organization when I created the boilerplate a moment ago, and I created it in the dev space. And so I'm going to select those to make sure that everything is synced up. Ooh, sorry. Let me just try that once more. Select TLCC to do deployment directory, and it's going to connect back to Bluemix again. Retrieve my organizations and spaces. Okay, I'm running into a slight problem here. I'm not sure what the problem is, but I will jump back to Bluemix in any case. So you can see here that the App Health section of the Bluemix dashboard is telling me that my application is now up and running. So within a minute or two of creating that application via the Bluemix catalog, the application is now staged and running in an XPages runtime container on Bluemix. So I can load that application, and here you can see it running in the cloud. This is the same to-do application that I showed a bit earlier in the responsive demo. You can create a new document and fill in some values. Set a due date of today with a high priority and save that. So what that's going to do is actually save that document to the back-end database service. So the front-end application, the runtime application, is communicating back and forth with that Domino server running in soft layer. And of course, you can open that document to read it. You can edit it, and we can mark it as complete and save. So a fairly simple XPages application. It's using all of the latest features of the responsive Bootstrap plugin. So it's fully responsive, as I demonstrated earlier, and rearranges the application based on the size of the screen, and so on and so forth. So it has all of those latest features from XPages available, ready to go in Bluemix in the cloud. So what I want to jump to next is back in the dashboard in my own organization. We have a couple of other demo applications, namely the first of which is the XPages Watson demo. This is an XPages application running in Bluemix, but it's not using our database service at all. So the only service that it's using right now is actually this question and answer service. And you can see here that there's a couple of credentials listed, and these credentials allow our XPages application to communicate with this Watson service that's available in Bluemix and hook it up to our application. So if I bring up that application, it's a fairly simple application again. It connects to the Watson Q&A service. It has two different sets of data, the healthcare and the travel data sets. So I can pull those the Watson service for answers to questions. So ask the healthcare service what is emphysema, and it will send back an error. So let me just try it once more. Okay, this time it resolved fine. So I've asked it there a question. Watson has taken the question, generated a set of answers, and assigned a confidence beside each one of those answers. So it's telling me that emphysema is a serious lung disease with a confidence of 25%. In the travel data set, I could ask it what is the capital of Guatemala because I'm interested in visiting, and it will tell me that the capital is Guatemala City. So you can see how a service available in the Bluemix catalog can be quite quickly and quite easily incorporated into your XPages applications. And to do so, the Watson services, as well as all services and runtimes in Bluemix, provide detailed documentation about how to use their services and runtimes. So you can see here the set of services available from Watson. This page has all of the documentation for the question and answer service. It has a sample application written in Java with certain code snippets. So pulling in these code snippets into the XPages application, you can very easily hook up your XPages application to that Watson service. So back on the dashboard, there's one other demo, which is the XSP SQL demo. So this is another XPages runtime application running in Bluemix, and this time it's using an SQL database service as the backend data store. Again, it has a set of credentials, and these are the credentials that you would use to set up your JDBC file within your XPages application. So Pete was talking earlier about the relational database support that has been added as part of the extension library, and this particular demo application is leveraging that relational database support in the runtime to connect to the SQL database backend. So I have that application running in a tab over here, and you can see that it's a shopping list application, so just keeps track of what items you want to buy the next time you visit the shops. You can see the set of data there, and that set of data is actually being pulled from the backend SQL database service. So this service actually provides a kind of a nice UI just to view the data as well. So you can see here that the data that I showed you in the XPages application matches the data that's from the SQL database backend. And if I was to add a new item, such as want to get the newspaper while we're down there, and that will save a new item to that SQL database backend. If I hit refresh, we see that the newspaper was added to the shopping list. So again, that's just a demonstration of how you can leverage the various services and capabilities available in the Bluemix catalog and hook them up to your XPages applications quickly and easily. So I think we can throw back to Pete, is it?
Sure. Why don't you give it back to me? And we're kind of tight on time, so Martin, we're going to just switch over here, get that going, show my screen. I'm just going to hit a couple of these slides, and you can embellish as needed because I want to save some time for Q&A, okay?
Yeah.
All right, so
here.
What's that?
We have another demo if we have time.
We don't. We don't even have time for the rest of the slides, really. So the architectural summary is, it's basically this loosely coupled architecture. App instances load in the runtime container and bind to various services, as Brian was just showcasing there. And as it states here, the need to separate the application logic and data is fundamental. So that is, I think, the fact that applications can be torn down from the runtime and rebuilt as Bluemix deems necessary really means that we need to have, you need to be storing your data separately. And so we can see here some of the popular runtimes and service combinations. And now, we're adding XPages up there as well as the Domino data source. Martin, you want to just briefly talk to this one? And I think we'll hit one or two more, and then we'll go to Q&A.
Yeah, so so one might well ask, when we talk about the runtime or the build pack, as you might have heard us reference as well, what exactly is it when you start up that runtime container? What's happening? So yes, you do need, this all does run within a Domino server, but maybe not a Domino server as you're used to it. It would have really been pared down to being an application server without any of the unnecessary services. And as you know, Domino has many other services that make it a very rich and wealthy platform. But in terms of app dev, we can skin it down to the HTTP task, the XPages runtime, and one or two other little things. This gives us the ability to how would you say, save on both size of the runtime package and startup time. We've obviously added in the latest XPages runtime into that, so you would have the latest XPages extension library, for example, and we are free to add in other capabilities as well. And what's very good about this is that so are you. So when you go and push your application from Designer, you could, for example, include your own extension library, which will be automatically dropped into the OSGI directory when the application started up. So you do have a very light stack, an application server, and one that you can extend and customize with your own XPages extension libraries, or your own libraries, I should say, really, as you go along. So it is an extensible stack. We can take the next slide.
So I think just one thing, there was a question about, will the latest Bootstrap capabilities for XPages be part of Bluemix, the runtime? And so the answer is yes, and the fact that
the answer is yes.
More agilely and have continuous delivery for the runtime speaks very well to us, allowing to move things forward quickly, certainly in the Bluemix space.
I should add there as well, Pete, that the tooling that you've seen Brian demonstrate there, that corresponds to the sort of, well, A, the Bluemix features, and B, things like obviously to enable the Bootstrap capabilities. All of that stuff is in the extension library. So according as stuff becomes available up in Bluemix, and if you grab the latest extension library and install it from a design perspective, you also have the ability to take advantage of all of those new design features.
Yeah. So at this point, I'm basically just going to move to one last slide, but I want to make you aware that we've talked about a number of these various details here throughout the Bluemix portion. You'll get the slides, so there's more information about the service, the fact that security, the Domino security model remains intact here, even though we are kind of separating the runtime from the database service there. So just that same security model that you're used to will continue to be a core value proposition of what we're doing here on top of Bluemix. Scalability and resilience, we didn't really get to show in this. I think Howard with the speaks is the fact once we get this experimental release out there, there's probably the opportunity to do further enablement, and we're certainly going to be doing that around this. Domino Designer tooling, Brian briefly touched on that and showed you what we've done to go ahead and extend Designer to work with Bluemix. So roadmap directions. What we're working on right now is this experimental release. It'll be publicly available to anybody. It's a free-to-use service. It's really pre-beta. So our it's going to have the runtime, the service, the boilerplate, and the Domino Designer extensions. We're targeting that for here in the first half, so looking for a June delivery on that, and then moving into beta in the third quarter for this this set of offerings here on top of Bluemix. So I just wanted to kind of wrap with that. We do have some more information out there that you can go ahead and leverage. So once again, you'll get the questions, the slides, and you can look at that at your leisure. So at this point, Howard, I guess we'd like to go to Q&A, and I think there's a lot of questions there. Hopefully we'll be able to get to a few of them.
Oh, yep. Thanks, Pete, and thanks, Brian and Martin. That was a great presentation, and I'd like to invite you guys back when you're ready to do just a webinar totally devoted to Bluemix, because it seems like there's a lot going on there, as well as maybe a deeper technical dive, just enabling people to use it. Before we get to the questions, just have some upcoming events up on the slide. I'll let you guys read that as we go through the questions. Some great events coming up in June and August and September.